Batman, the animated series. To some, this is the definitive rendition of Batman. Rightfully so. It has a surprisingly mature way of storytelling with a visually striking style to match that is unmatched in every way. With its signature Art Deco influenced art style, which has been dubbed Dark Deco, this show was drawn on black paper, bringing you even deeper into the depths of Gotham City as life emerges from the darkness in every frame. On top of that, our show's vigilante is voiced by some who might call the voice of Batman, Kevin Conroy. I don't blame anyone for holding this series king. This is television done right, animation done perfectly. The animated series has a mass array of episodes spanning out across 4 action-packed seasons, and on my way through season 1, there is this one episode that stuck out to me very early on in my viewing, since I am now doing a watch through of it, considering I haven't seen it since I was a kid, and that is episode 8's The Forgotten. With its rather different approach to, literally everything, since it kind of throws everything you know about the series upside down for a 22-minute joyride, let me get into why I think that this is the strangest episode of Batman, the animated series, very much unlike any other so far. We open up this tale with Bruce Wayne donating some food to the homeless shelter like the absolute champion he is. If people ask why Bruce doesn't do anything for Gotham, show him this clip. He does enough. The guy who runs the mission has a suspicion. He suspects that a great deal of people that are regulars have been going missing, though he can't quite put his finger on it to confirm it. He knows deep down that there is something wrong though. Likely, these people have probably gotten jobs and cleaned up their lives, but I mean, we trust this guy's judgment anyways. After hearing that the police have better things to worry about, Bruce takes it into his own hands, because someone has to. This is where we descend to the Batcave, where an idea is formed. He slips into something a little more suiting, ditching the caped costume for something a little more public, a little more personal, and a little more low-key. This is where we meet Gav Morgan, one of the many personas Bruce has alongside Matches Malone. Lurking through the slums of Gotham, he encounters a group of charming gentlemen who make Gav an offer he can't refuse. As the two fine fellows try to persuade him into taking their offer by the ways of the fist, Bruce, Gav, effortlessly dodges their punches, sending them into knockout mode. As a black cat, totally not symbolic of bad luck at all, crosses his path, he stops to admire it as the thought-to-be-down goons rise back up to deliver a devastating blow to the back of Mr. Morgan's head. Caught completely off guard, now knocked down, helpless, this is where things start to take a turn as the lights go out for the Dark Knight. Waking up in a prison camp with no memory of who he is or even where he is, we are soon to learn that this place is like none other that we've ever seen. We are quickly introduced to Dan Riley and Salvo Smith, 2 inmates who welcome Bruce to the welcoming lands. Ditching the dark deco look of Gotham, we are now submerged into a bright desert landscape which is full of the people that the guy who runs the mission suspects are missing. This is a fully barbed wired area dedicated to hard labor where the prisoners are served green rat soup. Oh yes, who doesn't love green soup with rats in it? Sounds so appetizing, doesn't it? This is a place where no regard for human life exists. We are now introduced to the guy who runs the place, Biggest, and he is the embodiment of all things not good, appealing, attractive, or any nice words to describe someone that isn't a big bag of gutter scum. This guy is pretty much the human embodiment of gluttony. Look up gluttony in the dictionary and he shall appear. As opposed to his prisoners eating green rat soup, which is most likely full of parasites and all sorts of diseases, this sad excuse of a man is always eating real food. Heavy emphasis on the real. Take that as you will as you see the things that he eats throughout this episode. You'll notice that he is always covered in grease stains, hoarding all of the food to himself. That is because he only cares about himself. He has zero empathy or care in the world for literally anybody. Probably not even his workers, the only loyal people that this man could find, and is quickly to dispose the most convenient person available to make a point that he is the very thing that he shits out.
Human fecal matter.
He is overindulgent and takes glee in the suffering of his prisoners. If I gave you only the description for this guy and didn't tell you that he was the antagonist in this episode with no context whatsoever, you would probably be thinking I was talking about Kim Jong-un. It's almost unreal the parallels that they share, especially since when this show was airing, Mr. Jong-un was most likely living lavishly out in Switzerland, so the coincidence is pretty crazy. The main difference is that North Korea's favorite gluttonous dictator brainwashes his people into worshipping him, as opposed to Biggest, where people clearly dislike everything about him. We learn early in his entrance how disposable he sees his people, as he throws Salvo's counterpart into the isolation cage. Anything to benefit himself and strike fear into the eyes of his inmates. Biggest tells them to get to work or they will roast, but funny thing is, he would probably enjoy everyone to roast anyways, just so he can go and eat everybody. We cut over to our favorite butler as he goes to wake up Bruce to find out that he's not there. Next, we get a glimpse into the mining shaft where the hard labor is getting done. Mr. Riley admits that hope is the only thing that these people have, but honestly, no one is a better symbol of hope than Batman himself. As we have a bonding moment with Bruce, Salvo, and Dan, Salvo explains how he was one of Gotham's unemployed, and Dan admits he volunteered at the mission until he got jumped, just like our old pal Bruce did. As what appears to be some memories coming back, the cave collapses on everyone. Salvo admits this shit is just another day at the office. What a shitty office. All while this is happening, Alfred is out there covering Bruce's ass on his disappearance, while at the same time wondering where the hell this man's is. He notices one of the cars are missing and activates the tracking device so our pal Al can get some goddamn answers. Bruce seems to be taking a walk down memory lane in some kind of dream or bad salvia trip as he slips back into the shoes that he once wore. He hands out money to the homeless to give a helping hand, then more hands reach out. Bruce realizes that he can't help everyone and sheds a tear. Sad boy hours are now in effect as Something in the Way now quietly plays in the background. Something's in my heart. Awakened in his bunk, his memory is restoring and the amnesia is lifting. About goddamn time. I really want to know how someone like Batman can come to get amnesia this bad anyways. The episode doesn't really get into that. We cut to Kim Jong-biggins as he's shitting on his workers, calling them all lazy scum, as if he isn't the laziest piece of rotten meat there is, and proceeds to throw our man, Grim Salvo, into the box. Biggins sure doesn't like guys who look like Sal, apparently, since the last dude was literally his counterpart. Dan and Bruce stand up for our boy as they open the biggest can of whoop-ass in the yard. Big boy Biggins says to toss him into the timeout box. You know, for the ass that they can both kick and the ass that Biggins can't kick, they should just beat his ass and free everyone else's ass in the camp. It would be super easy, barely an inconvenience once they take down the goons, which would just be another walk in the park for them. Alfred is tracking the Studebaker and finds it in a scrapyard. He removes the tracker and then proceeds to place it onto the vehicle of one of the workers there to continue getting them answers. Hell yeah, Alfred. We cut back to the timeout boxes as Dan is telling Bruce that he can truly kick some ass and probably used to be a fighter back in his better days. Dan gives some more of that good old sympathetic backstory about his family and Bruce tells him not to lose hope. Dan says he can't take anymore and then says the magic words, that he lost his family. This triggers Bruce like nothing else as his life comes back to him. He sees his parents, their graves, and then the Batman. This is where the Bruce that we know and love officially enters the chat as his tone and entire demeanor changes and demands Dan to pull his shit together. Bruce gives the box a kick and voila, he's out. Now that was super easy. I don't know why he needed his memories to give the box that hard of a kick, but I mean, Dominic Toretto would be proud. As Bruce makes a run for it, Kim Biggs makes the most disgusting sound a human can make. And gets everyone to advance on him as he escapes to Box Canyon. The hounds are now released, but that doesn't faze Bruce as he scales up the canyon like the boss he is. At this time, Alfred has pinpointed where Bruce is and takes the Batwing for a joyride for what appears to be the first time ever as he could barely drive the thing, but he does wonderfully. Coincidentally, he passes Bruce as he'd be making a run for it. What luck, honestly. Alfred lands, claims the land for Spain.
I claim this land for Spain.
As one would. Then our white-haired knight walks into the scene. He sits down next to Alfred and says nothing but gives him a fist to the side of the face. Love it. It is now nighttime, and boy, Biggins be on his 7th meal of the day as he demands the gravy, just trying to add some color to his hella gray looking food. He says he will eat Bruce alive for escaping, which really pushes the point that he would have just preferred everyone to stop working so they can all roast and turn to food for this gluttonous big boy to feast on. This guy must stink like an overflowing grease trap. What benefit even comes from working for this guy? He is so unlikable. Why do people want to be employed by him? I don't get it. Give me some answers. One of his workers runs in saying that he saw a giant bat. Then Batman officially enters the chat to bring down the fists of vengeance. Our supreme leader lets out a Batman! Gets knocked on his ass, pulls out a shotgun to shoot at the caped crusader to realize that he escaped. Never would have thought he would have hit him in the first place. His movements in general must take forever with all the probably clogged arteries that he has. Hell breaks loose in the canyon as Batman lures everyone into the shafts for a good old-fashioned showdown. This leads to the coolest part of the episode, as since they are now in total darkness, everything is in black and white, like a good old classic western. The music picks up, also fitting the vibe, as Batsy corners Biggins into a corner. For the first time, he shows emotion that isn't a disregard for everything and everyone as he asks to be left alone. He trips and falls onto his fat ass and lights up the place with the lantern that he dropped, which, to Biggins' luck, is by a whole bunch of explosives. Nice. You can't have a Western-themed anything without a big array of dynamite to go boom. Even though this guy has zero redeeming qualities, our Dark Knight takes Biggins to get him to some safety so he won't get killed as they take a ride down a water shaft with the place blowing up as they go. Honestly, looks like a blast, just another day at the water park. Biggins begs to not let him drown as Batman is nearby and gives him a save. Batman proceeds to say that when Biggins goes and tastes the prison food, he'll wish that he drowned instead. Touché. We cut to the final scene as we're now back at the mission as Dan, Bruce, and Salvo exit the place, totally happy to be out of that hellhole so they can finally change their diets to things that aren't dead and green. Dan offers Bruce to stay at his place, thinking that he is also a man without a home, only to have Alfred refer to him as Master Bruce, as he is now there to pick him up to realize that he is indeed a man with a really large home, as he now introduces himself as Bruce Wayne, offering the two a job at Wayne Enterprises. What a guy. I love him. He does so much. So dreamy. Oh yes. Such an interesting episode though. It was so refreshing to see the normal scenery of Gotham City completely ditched for something a little more light and barren, trading in the claustrophobic streets for a hard labor desert camp. Though I really do love the look of Gotham City. The whole episode had a nice theme of family and the effects that they have on you, because when Bruce was at his absolute lowest and most helpless, the thought of family triggered all of his memories deep inside of him, and that gave him the strength and power to pull it together to succeed and endure. And when Alfred came clutch to his rescue, aided him even further to give this place what it deserves, a big kaboom. I gotta admit, when I first turned this episode on, I wasn't really feeling it due to how out there it was, but after I realized how out there it really was and what they're actually going for, I was so drawn into the point that I couldn't help myself but to make this video and proceed to watch it like another 4 times in preparation for making this. This series is so dope, but I know I don't need to say that since it's such common knowledge to Batman fans and also non-Batman fans that this is an absolute classic. I'm currently working my way throughout the entire thing right now, and who knows, maybe another episode will stand out to me, provoking another video in the process, because y'all know how much I love making Batman videos. But wrapping things up, my name is Freddy Savage, going over the strangest episode of Batman, the animated series, so far, and I'll see you next time.